What's going on, everybody? This is your favorite time of the day. And I thank God for your allowing me to be in your presence once again on this beautiful Monday. You're still rocking with your boy T, right? This is no test without a testimony. Now, I know for a fact we all have testimonies that we are being taken through each and every day. And my guest that I have today has been always making sure when he had a test, he's doing everything he can to pass that test because he knows that that test is already ordained for him to be able to get it. So, have you already ever been in a situation where that test has allowed you to say, you know what, I want to, be a better person, be a better husband, better business owner, anything that you probably could think of, this guy has the opportunity to show you how to become better at everything that you're doing each and every single day. And I thank God for that. So one of the things that we're going to do is I got my guest, he's ready to roll with us. He's ready to do some great things, and I'm ready to have some great things done with him as well. So we're gonna go ahead and get this brother all the way through. I'm about to get him in right now.
Hey, here we go.
What's going on, David? How's it going, my man?
Not bad, not bad. How's life treating you?
Man, life is always great when you always have something great going on and God is shifting beautiful things in your own life. You don't have to worry about anything that you don't understand because he gonna make sure it happens for you. All right. No matter what the circumstances look like, you can always do better when he's on your side. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So one of the things I want to do, I want to back all the way up. First and foremost, I want you to tell all my beautiful listeners that listen to No Test Without a Testimony, because I want you guys to like and subscribe, because this show doesn't happen without y'all. It does not happen without you guys. Well, it doesn't happen without God first. Let's keep it 100. But then it doesn't happen without you guys. So let the world know who you are. And how did you really come up with your business? Like, what was the biggest concept? What was the thing to make sure that you can land a testimony?
I love it. I love it. So yeah, I joke around. I say I've been through hell so many times that my punch card's filled out and the next trip is free. So, but it's all about how you look at it, right? There's no test that you go through that you can't turn into a testimony. I've got a couple of stories that I'd be honored to share and then hopefully inspire and empower everyone that's listening. But let's start with that first question, like, who am I, right? So my name is David Kiwimagi, and that's a doozy, not going to lie. When I was in the military, day one of boot camp, right? They're calling out names. They're like, Tony Wright, present. They get to my name, and they're like, what the? I was like, that's me. That's this guy. They looked at my name. They looked at me. They looked at my name, and they went, you're going to be Kiwi for the rest of your career. That's over a decade ago now. And so I actually go by Kiwi. All my friends call me Kiwi. And if you look up my last name, I'm like one of the few people on the planet with it. It's so rare. But when you're young, you don't be like, I want to be a leadership strategist. When I grow up, I want to help couple entrepreneurs and business CEOs. It's not really that dream as a kid. So what I got into is helping couple entrepreneurs, CEOs, and those people that are in positions where they're really crushing it in the business, but losing it in the bedroom. These are people that got put together and they're like, I can kill it in the boardroom, but I've lost my touch in the bedroom. Or they're like, I feel like roommates and not partners at home. We help those people with simple tools to be able to succeed both in the boardroom and in the bedroom. And we didn't just decide one day to do this, me and my wife. This was born out of our story. It was our testimony that was born out of our test. That's how we got started.
Wow. Okay. So I'm glad you shared on this first. So first of all, what was your job in the military, real quick? Because one service member to another, I gotta find out.
Fair enough. United States Navy, I was a CTN, which is basically a cryptologist, technician in networking. I was a hacker.
I'm gonna keep my stuff very short. How I'm about to ask everything else. Then, uh, um, but once again, one veteran to another. I appreciate your service, my friend.
Likewise.
Um, So, what's the backstory to really make sure that you saw? Did you see this as a problem with so many other entrepreneurs that they were really so killing it in the boardroom or killing it in their profession, but they were slacking everything else at home? Like, what really led to that moment to say I had to be able to fix this?
Because I failed at it.
Well, well, that can help.
Yeah. So for me, my problems actually started when I was first married, over a decade plus now ago. When me and my wife first got married, you bring a lot of baggage and trauma into your marriage and cultural differences. We're both lovers of God, and we brought that to the table, but it really started on a birthday. It was my birthday, and I asked my wife to make my favorite childhood meal, the one my mom had made every year for my birthday, lasagna. I love lasagna. I do. And so my wife was like, "Oh my goodness, I love you. I will totally do that." So she goes, she gets her grandmother's handwritten recipe. She shops for every ingredient. And anyone who's ever made lasagna knows that's not easy. You got to layer the noodles and you got to put all the stuff together. So she sets down this steaming dish in front of me and I could smell it. And I was like, oh, my hopes were so high. But on that first bite, they were shattered. When I stuck my fork into that first slice, I hit something rubbery. And I peeked between the noodles, and they're staring back at me like a landmine was a
Oh man.
hard boiled egg. And I sat there and I was looking at it, and I thought to myself, do I tell my wife, my brand new wife, who's glowing with pride, that her lasagna has just committed an unforgivable culinary crime? Or do I just eat it like a good husband?
Please
Well,
tell me you ate it.
well, all I could think was, this is not how my mom made it. I mean, that's what's going through my head. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Well, the truth was, I actually felt unsafe to say anything. And so I didn't. I swallowed my pride. I swallowed my thoughts. And yes, I swallowed the lasagna. That was weird. It did not taste good because I was worried that if I said something, I would start a fight, and that might compromise dessert, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
My wife's over there. Now she's on the other side of the table, and she's watching me, and she's like, he's just sitting there, chewing, not saying a thing. He's not saying thank you. Does he not know the hours I just spent in the kitchen? And she started to feel unvalued and unseen for her efforts. Well, here's the truth. That became a pattern in our marriage, where anytime we saw conflict or a possibility of conflict, we just shut down and we didn't talk about it. But it really came to a head when we started a business together, because that seemed like a great idea at the time. Like, hey, let's do a business together. Yeah, let's be network marketers. And we invested tens of thousands of dollars into our business, and it was making about $100 a month. Not only was our pocketbook decreasing, but our relationship was too. Date nights felt more like project management meetings. The intimacy was gone. We ended up sleeping in separate rooms, and we knew that we were headed for a dark place. So we reached out to a friend of ours, and he suggested coaching. And I was like, I don't need therapy. I need a solution. I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't need no fixing. I'm a dude. Right? That was my mentality. But I also knew something had to change. So we shifted our commitment, we shifted our focus, and we took the coaching. Now, I wish I could say the coaching solved everything. Boom, we were golden, we were good. No, the coaching was like a change of direction. You can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction. The coaching gave us the tools to start going in the right direction and start building not only a successful business, but a successful marriage. And so over the years, we invested in podcasts, retreats, more coaching, and we have finally gotten to a point where both our business and our marriage is thriving, because what you're building is important, but so is who you're building it with. And so today, I'm just going to share my story, the areas that I did the dumb things, and some of the key things that we have learned that changed everything in our marriage and in our business. Starting off with couch time, the 3 businesses, and then how to win every argument every time with your spouse, guaranteed.
Right, I'm gonna write down how to win these arguments. Okay,
I'm telling you, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I'm gonna definitely make sure. Well, I want all of our listeners straight up to be able to know exactly how to do all this, whether you're in an actual relationship or you're in a business relationship. Because one of the things that I know of, either one, if you're in a marriage, we don't like to say it this way, but it's the truth. You're still in the business.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, you have to make decisions on a collaborative effort together or you're going to fail. Just like you said, like if you don't make the relationship a priority or you don't make things a priority in your moment, you're going to fail at that. So what was the first step when you finally acknowledged that you're going to eat that lasagna no matter what did you first acknowledge within yourself? How did you get to a place that you had to communicate that back to your wife?
Well, there's more to the lasagna story, and I'll share it as we go through. But the truth was, I didn't like the lasagna, and I never told her that I did. Over the years, my wife tried 5 different recipes. And she finally got to the point where she's like, if I can't make you happy with it, I'm not going to try anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm just being honest. This is where we got to. This is so not where we're at now, man, dude. It's amazing. She still won't make me lasagna. But
she said, well, I can't get it right, man. I ain't about to kill myself no more. I can't get it right.
Yeah, we'll get there. I think the biggest thing is I believe that every couple has the ability to build a marriage that lasts. They just need the right tools. That makes all the difference. Like, okay, for example, go ahead.
Well, I want to ask this question real quick. So when you thought it was a great idea to create a business together and you guys will lose a lot of money, we hear a lot of times a lot of relationships go sour because of finances, right? I mean, how are you guys able to learn how to sustain that? Because that's one of the number one things in divorce besides communication. So how are you guys able to learn how to communicate towards that and not to let it be about the money, but understand about the investment then?
Yeah.
Because it seems like most people say, screw it.
Yeah, no, true. Absolutely true. So there's some couples that have completely separate finances. My grandparents were like that. Like, we always fight over money, so we just never did money together. There's some couples that end up fighting over kids and over college, over education. Some couples end up fighting over sex, and all of these things drive them apart. When you can solve the communication problem and you know how to communicate and you know you can communicate and you know how to argue and have conflict, and instead of it being a brick that's thrown through the glass pane window of your beautiful marriage, it's the brick that you use to build the foundation upon which your marriage is built. Conflict can be successful. And that's the key in winning every argument every time. So back on the finance question specifically, though, a lot of times it comes down to understanding your roles in marriage and understanding what you can control and what you can't control and who's better at it. Without going too deep, finance is actually something I go deep into, and that's a long discussion right there. But the biggest thing is this: is if you know someone's better at it and you relinquish control over them, say, you know what, man, you're better with the math, you're better with the planning, let's do it. The marriages tend to fall into 2 categories. You have the person that builds the budget, and you have the person that likes to blow the budget. It tends to usually be one of the 2. And sometimes it's the same person. They're doing both.
I'm about to say, some of them people can come in the same package.
Yeah, there's some people, like me and my wife have sat down with the budget, we made it, and then in the same week, we both blew it, right? We've done that too. But when you come down and you come together on an agreement, you say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sit down. We're going to work on this. We're going to go from there. The best time to do that and to actually come together on things is when you're connected. And a perfect time to connect is in couch time. Couch time was a concept that was introduced to us by a guy named Gary Ezzo. And phenomenal thing, had nothing to do with marriage, but it was a concept that we put into marriage that we're like, this is amazing. And so here's how it works. Later down the road, we'd been married a while and we had a couple of kids. I came home from work. Now, I was late coming home because my boss had one of those, his poor planning is now my emergency things. And so I'm getting home late. I'm stressed. I've been in traffic. My head's on the steering wheel. And all I could think is, I just want to connect with my best friend. I just want to connect with her. Well, I go through the front door. I unlock the front door and I hear the sound of my toddler dumping out a box of Legos. All parents know that sound and they know it's a mess. I walk past that, stepping over the landmines of toys, walk past the crayon mural on the wall, and I find my wife sitting on the floor, nursing our daughter on the floor, and dinner's on the counter, but it's not started yet. And so me, in my tired, infinite wisdom, asked her a question. I said, "So what'd you do all day?"
That's a
I'm
setup.
still alive. Yeah, I set myself up for I'm still alive. She didn't chew me out. Now, her, on the other hand, she's sitting there. She's thinking, he's going to be home soon. She's counting down the minutes since I should have arrived. And then I go ask that question. And it was just like, no, you don't get to do that. But had we had this mentality back in that moment, it would have changed everything. And that's the mentality of you connect first, conquer problems next. And so this is through what we call couch time. Couch time is where you take 5 minutes to like 15 minutes, 5 minutes at a minimum, of just you time. You sit down with your spouse and you just connect. You ask questions like, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? What's something I can do to set you up for success today? And you just connect with your spouse. When you do that and you take just 5 minutes to connect with your spouse, knowing that, hey, we're on the same page, and then we go conquer the challenges of the day, you feel seen. You start to feel valued by the other person. Because you are so important to me, I will take time for you. And when you are connected, you can conquer any obstacle, like finances or dealing with the kids is a mess. Now, I was on a podcast a while ago, and I shared this concept, and then we had a lady who visited our webpage from the podcast and got into our coaching program. And she was having a hard time with this. And she was like, I have 3 kids under 5. There is no way I can even have 5 minutes uninterrupted with my husband. They can't, they're going to have to be in the room. And I looked at her and I said, good, they should be in the room. She was shocked. She's like, what do you mean? I said, there are psychological studies that show children as young as 1 have an understanding that my survival is dependent upon these 2 adults getting along. So when they see you connecting, when they see you getting close to each other, they have peace in their little hearts. But when they see you fighting and arguing, they have the opposite. And so with the couch time concept, that was for us the very moment of like, you know what? If we take the time to show each other that we are important, we can connect on a daily basis. You probably, if anyone's not been under the social media rock, saw the whole Coldplay incident, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's everywhere. I mean, that was like fuel for my fire. And I'm sitting there, and at first I thought it was funny. And at first I was laughing at it, but then I also realized something. It wasn't so much that he, and she didn't commit and stay faithful to their wives. It wasn't even so much that the whole world saw you do it. It's that your own children did. And the effects that has on their kids now.
And what that's a perspective it didn't even cross my mind, especially from a journalist standpoint. I'm really cool that you really brought it from that perspective, because I know when it hit, everybody was really more concerned about how could this big CEO do this to his wife. She's at home, she's head of HR, and they're at a Coldplay concert. Like, they should be at home anyway. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. And what happens in that is you start to have this slow drift. Marriages usually don't just erupt and boom, affair, and then it's over, right? There's a slow drift that occurs before that. Couch time stops that drift. It allows you to connect with your spouse on a regular basis, to stay connected to that best friend and the person that you love. Now, this also applies in business. I get that question a lot. They're like, hang on, how does this apply in business? I'm so guilty of this when I lead my teams. I get up on a Monday and I was like, all right, let's go. Here's all the stuff we need to do today. And I turn it into a project management meeting. I say, take the first 5 minutes of every Monday meeting, depending on how many you have. And for 5 minutes, just connect. Hey, how was your weekend? How was it, man? What's going on with you? How's your back? How was your dog? And start to learn about the people that work with you, for you, above you, whatever the case is, and start to build a relationship there for just 5 minutes. You can waste 5 minutes in a meeting talking about football. We can spend 5 minutes connecting. When you do this in your marriage or in your business, or preferably both, you will realize that the deeper and the stronger the relationship, the more productive the team.
Well, let me ask this question because this literally popped up because we know now that most businesses, including some people's marriage, but mostly in business, you're in this TikTok social media atmosphere world and you're connecting. So a lot of HR people, they go to everybody's Facebook and they think they get to know who they are. Um, how would you tell somebody who kind of shows that perspective from there, but they haven't personally connected with them on a one-on-one level because maybe they work from home, they may only go to the office one time a year. How would you make that suggestion to them? I mean, in marriage, you hope you see them every day, but like,
Oh,
especially in
you're
a business, like how would you suggest that to them?
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that question. So you can learn a lot through social media. From my previous job, I'm really good at market analysis and finding people and what they're thinking and stuff like that. But people put on social media what they're either complaining about or what they want you to see. By spending time asking people questions and getting to know them, you learn what they care about, what matters to them. Especially when you ask the question like, what's the best part of your weekend? You learn not only what they did during that weekend, but what they really enjoyed. Whole nother concept. I don't want to go too deep into it. It's called a joy multiplier. But when you get people to relive joyful experiences they've had in their life, they associate that dopamine hit with talking to you. And you actually multiply the joy in their life. That will actually cause someone to build a relationship with you. I can stalk the tar out of your Facebook and know everything about you that you've put online. But I spend 5 minutes in a room with you getting to know you, then the relationship goes both ways. And I don't look like a stalker.
Yeah, I mean, I won't want you to look like one of those stalkers either, because you'll be like, man, I know you saw my story,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Okay, well, here's what I want to kind of think about now. So we've learned in the transition that we have to communicate, we have to understand how we are balancing this thing in the business. But and you put that in couch to connect with your business partner or your spouse. What do you need to do once you figure out how to connect with them? Because at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but nobody loves to say, let's talk about these bills. Let's talk about how we gotta make revenue. Let's talk about how we gotta hit budget. I gotta be honest, when I meet with my team, I'm like, I know y'all don't want to talk about budget, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. Like I make the energy feel like I know it's something we don't want to do, but we gotta do it. So from a business and even marriage standpoint, because that's the number one rule, right? We have to have uncomfortable conversations to make great things comfortable at some point.
Mhm.
How do you make that decision to transition into that?
Yeah. So again, the 5 minutes of couch time is not a project management meeting. It is not a bring up the bills. It's not let's look at the credit card bill together and audit it. It's not any of that. It's to connect because when you connect first, then you can conquer obstacles later, right? So now you can conquer obstacles next, but if you want somebody to do something for you, it's like a bank. If you are constantly withdrawing from your account and never depositing, you're going to get an overdraft fee. That person's going to quit your team. That person's going to want nothing to do with you. Your wife's like later, deuces. Like, I mean, you're just going to cause an overdraft problem. But when you are constantly adding in, caring about them, spending 5 minutes on a Monday with your teams, I recommend the first 5 minutes of every Monday meeting. Just ask them how their weekend went. Ask them. Now, if it's the same people, right? You don't have to do that every time. But with your spouse, it's every day. When you've done that, then you can go into conquering problems together. But there is a misconception with problems. A lot of times we try to control what we can't control. And when you do that, you give what you can't control over you.
Mm,
So
I like that.
take finances for example, right? I've worked with a really big company recently, and they've talking about tariffs, all the tariffs, and it's going to affect our thing. And it's a multi-billion-dollar company, so I'm over here going like, you're gonna be okay, but it's a big deal. Tariffs are a really big deal, and so they're like, we need to do this, we need to do this, and all this and all this, and they're stressing out about what they can't control. They cannot control the tariffs. I said, but when you focus on what you can control, you will have complete control over where you want to go. And let me explain that to you. So back on the lasagna thing, right? My wife made the lasagna. I had one slice. She put it in the fridge. End of story. Well, my wife set it up so that I could take it with me to work for lunch the next day. Well, I opened the fridge And the lasagna is sitting there, and I'm like, yeah, no, we ain't touching that. I don't want eggs in my lasagna. Sorry, no. So I didn't take it. I went to work. My wife later that day opens up the fridge, and she's like, does he not like this? Now, granted, I'm the guy that will eat an entire 9x13 pan of her enchiladas. Like, she's an amazing cook. She's really good. She's like, what's wrong with him? Does he have a problem? Does he not love me? And she starts going through all of these, voices in her head because we weren't talking about it. We were just avoiding the problem. Just like the finances. You can't just avoid them. You have to bring this up. Well, we avoided the elephant in the room, so to speak. We walked on eggshells for a while to the point the lasagna went bad, moldy, and had to be thrown out. Well, my wife's thoughts towards me also went very moldy, and she started to be really frustrated. Like, why doesn't he do this? Why doesn't he do that? He should, he should, he should. And that's where we could have really used the 3 businesses. The 3 businesses are this. Number 1 is yours. Number 2 is other people's. And number 3 is God's. So your business, you are responsible for everything you think, feel, do, and create. And that order is important because what you think, you will start to feel. What you feel, you will start to do. What you do will become what you create. You cannot control. You have 0 control in what other people think, feel, do, and create. And so, for example, my wife cannot make me feel loved. She can't. I can choose not to. And perfect example of that, when somebody's mad at you and you try to go be nice to them, they're gonna be like, go away. I don't like you. Leave me alone. You can't make them feel loved. But what you can do is you can create an environment in which they feel loved. And so when it comes to dealing with things like that, my question for you is this. Are you doing something that's controlling you or controlling other people? I told this to a group of managers, and I asked them a question. I was doing a workshop, and I said, they're like senior mid-level managers. And I said, are you responsible for your teams doing the work? And they're like, oh, yeah. I have to make them do the work. That's why I get paid the big bucks. Kid you not, these are their answers. And I said, no, you're actually not. I said, you are responsible for creating an environment in which the work can be done. Your frontline managers and their direct reports, they are the ones doing the work. You are the one creating the environment where the work can be done. Are you creating an environment where it's easy with the right tools to get the work done? Are you creating an environment where it's safe to learn and try new things and experiment? Are you creating an environment where they are set up for success? Or are you creating an environment where you're constantly like, are you getting it done right? Are you getting it done right? Are you getting it done right? Because that's just going to stress you out and stress them out. Last but not least is number 3, which is God's business. You are not responsible for things you can't control and other people can't control. Examples of this were like forces of nature, the blooming of a flower, and the timing of results. You can't control these things. When I lived in Florida, we got hurricanes all the time. And it was always fun because everybody would watch the news and they would call me and be like, oh my gosh, are you guys okay? I'm like, fine. Like, aren't you watching the news? I'm like, no, I just wait for you to call. Like, I don't have to. But no matter how many people stress over a hurricane, I've never seen it change its course. So to sit and stress over what you can't control just causes you anxiety. But focus on what you can create. Can I create an environment where we can get this done? Can I create a go bag? Can I do the things that need to be done so I'm prepared to leave? When you do that and you focus on what you can create and you let go of what you can't, you will find you'll have total control of the areas in your life. So think about a business, right? And we need to talk about a budget talk. There are some things in the budget, like, you know what? We can't control this. But there are some things in the budget where we can control this. And let's focus on those, because stressing about things that you can't control just increases your anxiety. Another perfect example, there was this lady, and I'll leave her name out, but she got into our coaching program through our website, and we're going through it, and I'm explaining this to her as part of it. And she was like, this is like massive inhale. I was like, are you okay? She's like, yes, I'm okay. 90% of my anxiety comes from the fact that I'm constantly trying to make my husband feel loved. And I was like, yeah, his feelings are not your responsibility. And so I told her, I said, here's what I want you to do. Over the next week, instead of focusing on how he feels, focus on creating an environment where he can feel loved if he chooses to. So she focused on all the things in the house and all the things of when he came home and different things like that, all the things she could control. And so I met with her the next week and I was like, so how'd it go? And she's like, oh, Kiwi. He came to me 2 days ago and he comes to me and he's like, I don't know what you did, but I feel so loved by you. Keep it up. And she's like, I love it. I'm not stressed anymore. I'm just focusing on creating an environment. And so for finances, this is a big one. A lot of people stress over things. Perfect example. I run Facebook ads for my business. This is what I do. And I can stress all about, oh, did somebody click on it? Did somebody do this? Did somebody do that? And I get so stressed out about it. But if I focus on, am I creating ads that actually bring value to my audience? Or are they just buy my stuff, buy my stuff? Am I creating content that actually brings value? When I'm on a podcast, am I blessing the host and their audience? Or am I just saying, hey, look at me, I'm so great? And if my answer is the second one, I need to fix myself, because everywhere I go, if I focus on creating a place where people can feel valued, they'll want to come buy more from me.
I mean, I like that concept, because I think we get to a place now, and it's something I've said a long time ago, is that we want what we call microwavable blessings.
Yeah.
And when I say that, meaning we'll put an ad together real quick just so we can try to get like $2,000 or $5,000 or 100,000 followers. Then we're gonna get 100,000 followers in 72 hours, because we know that somebody gonna go viral real quick. We just want it to be us. And the hardest thing about it is that the journey has to be a part of the opportunity, but the opportunity has to go with the opportunity of knowing that the ads can go, or the product is there, but when I actually take the inventory for myself, it's like your heart has to be there. Because without the heart and without the purpose, there is no concept.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of and don't get me wrong, it's taken me a long time to make sure that concept digests in me. So I'm not gonna sit here on this podcast and tell all of my followers and subscribers and all that stuff that this became a microwavable moment too. It was a hungry man. I had to do what we call a Thanksgiving meal. I let it marinate for some days for me to kind of get there. Yes, right. You just and I think it's because what we see on social media now, we see that somebody said, "Oh, I got $100,000 because five million people follow me on so and so." What we don't see, whether it's in the business side, what we don't see is the grind and the hard work and the hard nose that a lot of people have gotten over time. And in your marriage, if you get a really huge house or really nice car, a lot of people don't know like the timing that you and your spouse wholly went into praying with each other. I can honestly say right now that is something that before I got married, I told my wife, like, man, we're gonna do that every day. And then it gets to a point when life hits you, you might do it 2-3 times a week. So now as the head of a household, I'm trying like, oh no, like if God put it in your spirit, don't let that dwell. Go ahead and do it now. And that's easier said than done for some people, including myself, because it's really a situation where we have to actually take that inventory back on our own and say, you know what, I can't be not only the provider that my family needs, but I can't even be the person that God ordained me to want to become, because I haven't taken the inventory to hear him the way I need to hear him.
That's right.
And so I want to segue into this question real quick. So with all those tests that came along the way, because this is no test without a testimony, right? So all those tests that came along the way, were you ever at a place where it's like, I don't know if this is going to work? Whether it's in your business, when you guys started your business together, or even when it got to in your marriage, because not every day became rainbows. I mean, it still rains and hurricanes still coming through. So did you guys ever get to a place like that?
Yeah, we did on more than one occasion. We did. I don't know how many times we've quit on the business, and we've gotten to a point where we almost quit on each other. And it sounds funny to say it though, but a lot of it came down to our inability to communicate around conflict. When we couldn't have an argument without it turning into a big old fight and somebody sleeping on the couch, we got to the point where we didn't talk about things. And when you don't talk about things, you start to drift apart. One of the biggest arguments we ever had though, and this is the one where how to win every argument with your spouse, right? There's some techniques here. This also works with employees, like how to win an argument with your employee or how to win an argument with your manager. Hands down, this works both ways. And so again, talking about lasagna, it had been about 6 years into my marriage. And my wife had tried multiple lasagnas. I didn't like any of them. She gave up. She's like, if I can't make you happy in this, because again, she's trying to make me happy. It's outside of her business. And looking back on it, man, I wish we had known that. But she gave up. She's like, I'm not going to try anymore. Well, I'm at work. I'm talking with my boss at the time, and we're talking about our favorite foods. And I'm like, man, I love a good lasagna. And he looks at me and he goes, oh, dude, my wife makes an amazing lasagna. I'll have her make you one, and you can take it home to your wife. All I can think was,
no.
Oh God,
Please
don't do
say
that.
you didn't do that.
Don't do that. I'm going to get in trouble. Well, the next day in the break room fridge is a 9x13 pan with kiwi written right across the top of lasagna, and it looked good. So I thought to myself, do I leave it here and disappoint my boss? Or do I take it home and start a fight with my wife? But I also thought, this will probably be the first time in my marriage that I've had good lasagna. So I took it home.
So you were trying to have a funeral.
That's actually pretty accurate. Well, my wife finds it, right? I'm not subtle. It's in the fridge. And she opens the fridge and there's a big old pan. And she's like, honey, what's this? And I'm over there like, panic. Food. It's food. She's like, food. It's like, where'd you get it? My boss's wife made it for me. She opens the pan and she sees lasagna and all those years of resentment and all of the unspoken expectations and all of the time and energy she's poured into lasagna recipes. And I'm over here getting it from another man's wife. And so she closes the fridge, and I'll never forget the words that she said next. She put her hands on her hips. She looked at me across our house on the living room couch and goes, couldn't get it from your wife. So I had to get it from another man's wife. Huh. The rest of that story is not appropriate for family-friendly podcasts. But let's just say, I am still alive. I am still here. And we laugh about it now. When we actually share that story, we'll go on stages and do keynote speaking for events, and we'll share that story. And in that moment, we did not know how to argue and win. But couples that know how to argue and win every time, they can overcome any conflict, any obstacle, any financial burden, anything with the business, anything with the kids, because they can conquer it together. And so here's 2 steps to winning any argument every time, guaranteed. Step number 1 is a mindset shift. When you first get married to your spouse and you're holding your hand and you're looking into her eyes on the wedding day and you're like, I love you, right? You're like, rich or poor, sickness and in health, it's you and me versus the world, baby. But that mindset starts to slip. Kids come along, you start a business together, the mother-in-law visits, and now you're the problem. No, you're the problem. No, your mom's the problem, right? And it explodes. But you lost that original mindset that was, it's you and me versus the problem. So that's the mindset shift right there. When you're in an argument, say it out loud. Say, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I've been arguing with you. It's you and me versus the problem. Let's solve this together. When you have that mindset shift, that goes from a conflict to a brainstorming session. What's the real problem here? And that's step number 2. What's the real problem? Most people complain about symptoms, not the underlying problem. Think about someone who's going into a doctor's office, right? And they go in and they're having a heart attack. They don't go in and be like, Doc, I'm having a heart attack. They go in and they're like, oh, my chest hurts, or my arm's numb, or some of the symptoms there. They're like, they complain about the symptoms. So the doctor creates what's called a differential diagnosis. 7 years in healthcare, good knowledge there, right? And that was before the military. And they create a differential diagnosis of all the things that could be wrong with you based on your symptoms. And then they start running tests, EKGs, labs, and stuff like that. And they start crossing off things until they go, oh, here's your problem, right? You want to do the same concept when you're trying to find out what the real problem is. Why are you arguing? Now, you understand that everyone is usually complaining about a symptom. You didn't take out the trash, or you didn't do this. That's probably not the problem, actually. So here's what you do. It's what's called the 5 whys. You're going to ask why 5 times. Have you seen the movie Frozen?
Actually, yes, I have.
Okay, cool. So there's a scene where the snowman, Olaf, is asking why. And he's like, yeah, why? Yeah, why? Yeah, why? If you do that in an argument, someone's going to grab your hand and slap you over the head with it. That's not how you do this. You ask intuitive whys. So, for example, my wife's like, you didn't take out the garbage, and she's all frustrated with me. And I go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't take out the garbage. That seemed to upset you. Why did that upset you? And you start to probe and you ask why, up to sometimes 5 times. Now, you don't have to ask why 5 times and then checkbox it, right? No, you're being a smart listener and you're trying to figure out what's really going on. You will know you found the real problem when one or both of these two things happen. One, they stop saying, you did, you should, this happened, to I feel. And two, their voice changes. They start to be a little bit more, oh, and soft. And they may cry even because they start to reveal to you the real pain that's going on inside. Now, you got to be careful. When this happens, it's sacred ground. For example, if a man opens up about how he's really feeling to a woman and she goes back and says, you shouldn't feel like that, he's going to close up and you won't get it again. We shut down. We do it hard. But when you treat it like sacred ground, you're like, oh my goodness, thank you for sharing with me this problem. It's you and me versus the problem. Let's take it on together. When you do that, you can conquer any obstacle. So let me give you a workplace example. You have an employee who wants a raise. You have a manager who's told you need to cut costs. So they go into a boardroom and they have a meeting. You know how that usually goes, right? Well, this is just how it is in corporate. Get over yourself. Well, if you really valued me, I'd go somewhere else, right? It ends up in this fight. Here's the truth, though. The employee wanting a raise is not a problem. The manager having to cut cost is also not a problem. The real problem is the company's not making enough money. Because if the company was making more money, it wouldn't have to stress about cutting costs. If the company was making more money, the employee could have the opportunity for a raise, especially if they're a good achieving employee. So what if the manager and the employee said, okay, what can we do to put our heads together to bring more money into this company? And you start to shift it from it's you and me versus the problem. When a couple is able to argue and successfully argue, they can come out the other side winning every single time. But every day that goes by where you avoid difficult conversations like finances or disagreements is another day that resentment can grow like a weed in your relationship.
I never really correlated in that direction, but I see exactly where you're coming from all day. Um, Now, before we get ready to wrap this up in a few minutes, the one thing I want to ask you, what was the moment that when you said the testimony state came through that you allowed it to know that things were shifting and you saw the change and this change was coming around? And what when did you notice that? Like, whether it was, in your business and then also in your marriage?
When I started to pour energy and effort into creating an environment where my wife is valued and where my clients are valued. Instead of focusing on results, God's business, right? The timing of results is God's business. I started focusing on bringing value in my marriage and in my business. This could be by me studying and becoming a better person. This could be on me building a better product that better serves what my audience really needs. This could be being more present at home and making sure couch time happens and my wife feels valued, loved, and seen. When I started doing that, all the rest of the stuff, the profit, the opportunity to be on podcasts, the opportunity to get out and tell my story, those opportunities exploded. And here's the truth. I reached a point where the business was so hard on me and the business was so hard on our marriage that we were sleeping in separate rooms. And I had the thought of, I'd be better off not here. And when I got there, I said, you know what? The world needs what I have, because the story that I'm going through, from the darkness that I will rise from, I might feel pressure. I might endure some heat. I might even lose pieces of me along the journey. But pressure, heat, and cuts are how diamonds are made. And so your story, the one you're going through, you feel like you're going through hell, just keep going because you might get out before the devil even knows you're there. That kind of concept, right? The pressure, the heat, and the cuts that you endure, that is how a diamond is made. And your story is priceless, valuable, breathtaking, beautiful. But a diamond in a dark room is nothing more than a sharp rock. I've taken my time today to tell my story, to try to inspire other people with simple tools that we learned and mistakes that I have made in the past to try to make a better place. When you do that, when you share your story and you share your testimony, like this beautiful podcast does for so many different people, that's shining the light on the diamond. And that is when you can see it.
Well, my wife is actually in the room with me right now. She actually threw up a question real quick that she wants me to ask.
Yeah.
Can I can't really read that quick. Um, she wants to know, how can you create an environment where you know for a fact your spouse feels love.
Great question. So during couch time, when you're spending time together, ask that question. What are the things that I do that you feel loved by? One of the things we teach in our coaching is the love languages. And so I don't know, are you familiar with love languages?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think most people are at least familiar with them. Some people have taken the test, some people haven't. Love languages are tricky. Love languages are like speaking another language. Perfect example. Let's say you're outside of Moscow, right? And you're taking pictures in Russia, and everyone around you is speaking Russian. And it's wah, 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 it's like the Peanuts parents, man. You have no idea what they're saying. And you just kind of tone it out. But all of a sudden somebody yells in English, "Hey Frank, over here." You immediately tune in to that voice because you recognize it as your native language, even though you're not Frank, right? You're like, oh, I understood that reference, right? That's what love language are like. For me, my love language is touch. I'm a toucher. I'm a hugger. I love huggers and high fives, right? My wife is not. She is not touch. My wife is time. And when I learned that and I prioritized just doing couch time, whether or not we talk about anything or nothing at all, she felt valued and loved because I created an environment. So I schedule couch time. I will get off this call and I will go do couch time with my wife because this is my last podcast for the day. So that's important to me. So what I tell people is sit down, have a time with your spouse on the couch and ask them a question. What do I do that you feel loved by? Or is there something I'm not doing that you would like me to do? And take notes. And then study that language. Learn to speak the Russian, so to speak. And when you do that and you start doing those things and creating that environment, your spouse will look at you and she'll be like, oh my goodness, I feel so loved by you.
Well, that's what I mean. To be 100 with you, I mean, my wife and I, we've had conversations about that pretty consistent, because we're both. I said it before we got married, and I still do it, even though I don't think she recognizes it from time to time. Is I always say I like to learn always how to study my partner. I like try to study my wife.
I like
And so she comes and tells me like, okay, well, what did you learn about me today, or what did you learn, or what am I doing? I'm like first of all, you asked like 4 questions at one time. So I try to like, okay, let me summarize what I have learned, so that way maybe she won't ask like 4 more other questions. But I mean, you're correct. You are so correct. You have to be in a position to show, your loved one or your coworkers. I know there are some people who go to work and the only thing they need to do is they want to clock in and clock out,
mm-hmm.
because they and I'm just as guilty of this. They don't see their job as a job for the moment. They want to see a career.
Mm-hmm.
And so they know for a fact at just paying the mortgage or the car payment or whatever, that's the only thing they're coming there for, and then what they're leaving out for. There's nothing that they know they leave. If the job is gone tomorrow, they're only focused on they can't pay those bills. So they don't get super excited about walking in the door. But when you have a job where you're excited about walking in the door, it makes you want to let your coworkers know a lot more about what your life is like, or what you're going to do, or how you can speak with them now, so they can have that environment, so you can feel the professional love. I don't want nobody. I don't want nobody that watches this podcast go to each one of their coworkers, and you can say you love them, but please don't do it in the most awkward way. Because you go to you get called to HR for harassment. We did not tell you that that's what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
At all. Like, I do not want me a letter. But I don't even know if I want to put the email up right now. But I don't want you to have that type of mentality. But the mentality I do want you to have, whether it's with your spouse or someone that you work with, is that environment that you have to want to make sure that you show them how much you appreciate them. And that doesn't cost you anything. I know we talked about budgets and stuff earlier, or someone who wants a raise, but that doesn't cost you anything.
Mhm. Bonus thing that I learned that was totally life changing in how I worked with my teams, but also how I worked with my kids. Do not compliment the completion of a project. Compliment the effort it took. So, for example,
Mm.
if somebody goes in and they wrote a whole briefing at work and they get up and they bomb it, like they do an awful job on the briefing, you get up and you say, you know what, man, I appreciate all the energy and effort that you put into making that. I can tell that you put a lot of work into that. Thank you for that dedication. When you do that, they'll go, oh, well, I'll dedicate it again and I'll get better at it. Whereas if you go, man, that sucked. Why did you bother? They're like, oh, never doing that again. Nope, thank you. Yeah. So compliment the effort. Do not compliment the overall progress or product.
That's true on that one. Now, let everybody know real quick, David, how they can get in contact with you. And if I want you to get the couch time. I do want you to get the couch time, brother, because I'm gonna have to get me a little couch time myself.
Yeah, there you go.
But I always normally end the show with a motivation moment of the day that goes through with a Bible verse. I gotta say I cheated. I've actually been in this Bible verse all day today, but that's
No,
okay. Um, but at the same time, so that way people can get in contact with you, and we'll definitely put it on our page as well. But we also want to make sure that people stay motivated, because one thing that we've learned, or at least I've learned over the years, is that when you get motivated, how God may be shifting you, there's nothing you can't do to go through a test and come out victorious with the testimony. I just
amen.
I just believe that wholeheartedly each and every day.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, I'll leave you all with this for all the wonderful listeners of this amazing podcast. You can get a hold of me at www.davidanalexiskiwi.org. Everything that we taught today and shared in this podcast, you can actually get in our free mini course right on that first homepage. But after 10 years, my wife finally swallowed her pride and made the trek to my mom's house to ask for the lasagna recipe that I loved, apparently. She sits down at the kitchen table with her and she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is that Kiwi loves, but can I please have your recipe? My mom looked at her shocked. She shrugged her shoulders in surprise and said, what recipe? I always bought it frozen from the store.
Oh wow.
I felt awful when I found that out. I was like, what? I like cheap lasagna, apparently. And my wife
So
was
she
making the gourmet stuff.
so so she said, you know what? You can get Stouffer's right now, and it is not gonna hurt your feelings. And you was like, man, she been slaving for hours on this stuff,
Yes,
man.
my wife loves me, man. She did it like 5 or 6 times too before she gave up. But the reason I tell you that is, for us, that literally took 10 years. 10 years. If you had gone back to that when I first brought lasagna home from another man's wife, if you had said the word lasagna in my home, dude, we would get conflict and we'd be irritated and agitated at each other. It became that bad. So here's what I encourage you. Don't wait 10 years to get the help that you need. Don't wait that long to turn that test into a testimony. Reach out for help. Get someone to guide you along the way, someone who's been through it already, to show you where you can go, what you can do, and the steps you can take to turn that test into a testimony, and then share it with the world.
Now I'm gonna be honest with now. When I do this motivation moment, I'm gonna put the collection plate around, because somebody gonna put a praise on it. They gonna start shouting in a minute, and then after that, boy, I don't have no song for today. But keep hope alive. I'll put something up in the near future. I promise.
There we
Uh,
go.
but we just got a small motivation moment. Um, you guys know motivation to me is about how God is learning you to know how to experience things. My wife and I, we were in this verse this morning. This verse has stayed in me all day. And I truly believe no matter where you are in your life, you can definitely have an opportunity that God's going to move something for you. So Psalm 84:5. You can do any version you like. I'm coming from the NIV version real quick, but it says, blessed are those whose strength is in you, whose heart are set on the pilgrimage. I couldn't say that word this morning. Uh, but but what I want you guys to understand in this is that you got to know where your strength comes from. I'm a huge guy. I love going to the gym. I love, working out as much as I can. And it's some really strong people in the gym. Don't get me wrong. They be in there flexing and stuff. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, I got to get myself together. That's not the strength we're talking about, guys. The strength that you want is no matter what you're going through in that moment, you want God's strength to keep you through it. And I would love to tell you that I understood how to do that overnight, but that would be a huge lie to you. There are times where I'm still asking myself each and every day, how can I lean on God's strength to pull me through whatever the moment is that I'm going through? Whether it's a financial thing that me and my wife has to talk about, or myself, because sometimes myself gotta have a financial moment conversation with me. Or if it's something that it could be something small, as if we was gonna get something to eat, but I don't know what we gonna cook type of vibe. And you're trying to figure out where the money came from to make that happen. And then the kids may need something one day, or the house may need something that's broken down, or your cars. You got to know your strength comes from the Lord. The strength comes from the man who created you. If you're going through a moment and you don't have a job right now, I want to let you know the strength that you need to keep putting in applications is coming from the Lord. If you really need a moment to say, I have no idea once I graduated from college that I don't know what direction to go to. Because when I grew up, I didn't just want to be a Toys R Us kid. Now I want to be the kid that can say I'm moving on to somewhere else. You can do it, but you got to get the strength that God has given you and put him in your forefront with the path that he's creating for you. If you lean on that strength, I promise one thing, God will never leave where you're going to go. He's going to put you somewhere that only he can put you at. I'm going through something right now that I can honestly say, if you can walk down the hallway, God got a door that he can open up for you. And I truly believe that because he's done it for me before. And I promise you this, I know he'll do it for me as well again and for you too. So, without a shadow of a doubt, if you're in a position where you don't know where your strength comes from, I'm here to tell you it comes from the Lord. David, man, I thank you so much for being a blessing to us. I thank you so much for being a blessing to me and having this moment where you're just a blessing all the way around, brother. Now I want you to go ahead and you're gonna have some lasagna tonight because me and my wife, we ain't having no lasagna though. I ain't got time to make that cook all of it.
I just buy it from the store.
Well, I can go buy it from the store. You had that homemade recipe. But I thank you so much, brother. I thank you so much of just being a blessing to everybody that is watching, but a blessing to me. We never know how God is putting people in our paths for some reason. And some people come to your life for a season, and I believe some people stay in your life for a very good reason. And today, brother, I feel that you are in my life for a very good reason right now. So I thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, anytime you guys need it, hey, always make sure to tell your family and friends about how you can be a great vessel to someone. You can always make sure you cannot get through a test without having a testimony. A teacher will give you a whole bunch of stuff to study. The first thing you can study all the time is the Bible because you won't be able to pass that testimony without it. If you want to be an actual individual that we interview right here on No Test Without Testimony podcast, right here on the CI Media Productions, you can always hit me up at cimediastudios@gmail.com. I always love to hear what your story is. I promise you one good thing. I get a lot of emails, so I would definitely get to you as quickly as we possibly can. But the one thing we'll definitely make sure we get to you on is knowing that you'll be able to be heard. And the one thing to being heard is you'll be a blessing to someone else. That I can always guarantee.
Amen.
All right. Well, David, man, I appreciate you once again, brother. I love you from the deep part. And go ahead and get that couch time in, my friend, because I'm going to go get me some good old. I think we're doing spaghetti tonight, my friend.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's an honor, man. It is truly a pleasure. I've been on lots of podcasts. This is definitely one of the funnest ones. I'll send you an email too with the testimony that you can use, and I'll follow up with you that way.
All right. Well, I appreciate you so much, brother. And I want y'all to have a blessed one. Right here. It's your boy T. Wright. This is No Test Without Testimony right here on CI Media Productions. Holla back.